Hey guys, it's Christy Lister here with Beyond the First Response, and I'm here with Robyn Michael, my co-host, and Jim Schlicher, a retired police officer slash EMT. How are you
EMT
today?
Good. How are you?
I was going to put the firefighter part in, but I had to have something to fight about.
What do you want to fight about?
Well, no, just kidding. So Robyn, my co-host, her husband was a fireman in California. So you get both sides of that today. So
we're at in Robyn. We're at in California.
We're in Northern California. Alameda County fire is where he was.
All right, way up north. Okay, all right.
Yeah. So a little background. I met Robyn obviously through Blue Help, First Help, Red Help, and she had done a podcast, and I listened. I'm like, this is great. Come to find out that her husband passed away a week after Ken passed away.
A week after? Oh,
yeah, a week after, and very similar stories in many ways. And that's how we created Beyond the First Response, because so many doors, so many walls are the same. Doesn't matter what uniform you put on. They're pretty much the same. So
no, and I think you just said it. I think so many stories are very the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So to start off, Robyn comes up with an icebreaker question. And so this should be, I didn't really get a chance to talk to her about you at all. So this should be fun.
So anxiety goes high right here.
Oh, right. No.
Bring it, Robyn. What do you got?
It's an easy one. I actually didn't get creative this morning. I'm doing the same one because I really like this topic myself. It's one of my favorite things.
Okay.
What is your favorite breakfast cereal?
I don't eat cereal. How's that?
No. All right. You're already going to be a problem. I can tell.
If I had to go to a favorite breakfast cereal, if I went back to my childhood days, I would tell you Fruit Loops. I'm sorry, not Fruit Loops. Oh my gosh. Fred Flintstone. Which one's that?
Oh, Fruity Pebbles.
Fruity Pebbles.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay. That would be the favorite one as a kid.
You're like all in. That's like pure sugar. There's no nutritional value whatsoever.
And probably why today I no longer have cereal.
Yeah.
If you think about what you put in your body then, it's like, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, life changes galore down here. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So he got to move to my favorite place. And I'm glad that at least somebody gets to enjoy it there and gets to retire and be in a little slice of heaven.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Heaven is an understatement down here in Tennessee.
Yes, it is. So, Jim, you and I have known each other for quite a long time.
Yep.
And you were sniper with Ken and
I was
SWAT.
Yeah, I was actually SWAT with Ken. Yes.
Yeah. And then you were also, you guys many moons ago rode bikes together, bicycles. When we say
yes,
bikes.
we did. Yes, we raced criteriums. Yes.
Yes. Jim does have a Harley, but that's not the bike I'm talking about.
Correct. I traded the bicycle in for the Harley because I get a lot more miles and was a lot faster. So what's wrong with speed these days?
And it didn't hurt as much, right?
If it falls, it hurts a little bit more.
True.
But yes.
Yeah.
Pain-wise and muscle fatigue, nothing there. Yes.
Right. So obviously Jim and I lost contact after Ken and I got divorced for quite a long time. However, in many cases of loss, you reconnect with people, and to see people grow is tremendous. And when I reconnected with Jim, seeing the growth that he has and his ability to overcome a lot that has, that many first responders go through is huge. So it was important for me to be able to have him on and just show that you can get through and overcome and live a healthy life.
100%. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So it takes a lot though, doesn't it?
It takes a lot, and it takes support.
Yeah.
It definitely takes support.
And grace to forgive yourself for things that you didn't understand at the time.
Forgive. Let's get to that. We're going to talk about that now or later, because
why don't we get to
that's always in process. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But it's like those little pieces that you peel away, and you forgive each piece that you peel away.
Right.
And you can't forget your past, but you can move past your past.
Well, you can grow from your past, and you can take your past, and you can humble yourself and be able to share your past to hopefully be parts of somebody else's future. And their
Yeah,
success.
that's a great way to put it. I love
It
that.
is. And accountable for mistakes.
Oh yeah, well, obviously we know who really holds us truly accountable, but yeah,
Yeah.
we've got to have a part in that 100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you remember, we'll talk the police side first, because that's what you did for 30
Yeah.
years. Do you remember, or if you even know, what call, and obviously you don't need to tell us the call, but do you remember that one call that changed you inside, that started taking you down different
So-
paths?
So we haven't talked in a long time. So I've still been on my own journey. You know what I'm saying? So, going through counselors and seeking out help and professional help and leaning on friends, leaning on church and leaning on the Bible. I've just continued to search myself to find out the truth. And, there was a set of calls, of just traumatic calls and my ability to, you don't, I think in whether it's police or fire, I think the gore of the job, or however horrific the scene might be, it's not necessarily the scene. It's the feelings and the emotions that sharing sometimes that traumatic event will bring out in somebody else. And then you don't want to see that person hurt. So therefore you keep it to yourself. So I've had, a multitude of calls over my entire career, but I would have to say there was one triggering call that obviously kind of put myself in a world spin. And what I mean by that is, up to today's date, I didn't know why I was in a world spin. I was involved in a shooting, June 1st, 2012. And I would say that kind of set the bar, for me learning more about myself and learning what I was missing and learning what I never processed through, which goes back to September of 1988, when my mother passed away, and I never dealt with death. I never dealt with death of my mother. And whatever I hid it, I kept it to myself. I didn't talk about it. I kind of fell away from, if you want to call it faith or religion, I just fell away from the church. I fell away from God, and I was pissed at the world, and I just kept it to myself. And then that shooting happened. And after that shooting, it was Ken's passing. It was my father's passing. It was my grandfather's passing. It was a close family friend committed suicide at 19 years old. And we were first on scene to find him. So it's a world spin of a whole lot of death and some administrative bullshit you deal with at your police agencies, and nobody knowing it and nobody knowing the right questions to ask before I even figured this all out. So I would say the core problem for me was just what I should be used to being in this profession, right? Whether it's police or fire, is death, because we see it all the time, but yet I never knew how to process it. I never knew how to, it was never personal. It is personal, but I never dealt with it in a personal way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does completely. I think that's and I think, Robyn, you want to go ahead? Because I think you were going to say the same thing I was going to say.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up a good point. So my family, actually, my grandfather owned a mortuary when I was growing up.
There you go.
So we were, they have, most mortuaries back in the day, they have a living quarters there because it's 24-hour business, kind of say they're a different type of first responder, I guess, in a way. So he lived there, various family members lived there at certain points. So I was around it a lot. And, funerals are for the living, right? They're not for the dead. It's for the people that are still here. But in general, as I got older and you do your own research and you come around different people, especially in the San Francisco Bay Area, around so many different cultures, you realize that Americans don't deal with death well at all. We're afraid of it. We don't process it. We want to pretend like it's not going to happen. I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, I'll be honest. I've learned a lot in the last few years. I've learned more in the last few years. And again, it's, I think today, and I think in American culture, you said no topic, every topic's online, right? We talk about anything. So
Absolutely.
I think in today's culture, there's just been a falling away from Christianity, and people don't understand what true life really means. It's not about the life that we're temporary here on, it's the outstanding of it. So we don't know how to deal with that part because we don't know where we go, and we don't want to talk about it. And it's unnerving, or it's uncomfortable, or I don't want to embarrass myself, or I don't want to embarrass you, or I'm outside my comfort zone, whatever it might be. And everybody holds back to that truth. And it's the culture we live in. I mean, you just turn on the news for 10 minutes and you can see what we were talking about, right? So so I think it's a lot of just people's belief systems, and we're hesitant to talk about it. And I'll be honest with you, man, down here in Tennessee, it doesn't matter where you're at. If you walk through Walmart or church or a grocery store or a concert, everybody is willing to talk about anything openly and listen to me, or me listen to them. And it doesn't matter if we disagree or we agree. It's just so cool to be able to just open up, and even things I might not be competent about, I'm willing to talk about just to learn from other people.
Yeah. And I like what you said about that religion in general. You know, I've gone back and forth on religion myself. I grew up Catholic. That was what our mortuary was, the Catholic mortuary in town. But I wasn't really, my parents, we didn't go to church or anything like that. But even around the world, you know, it's regardless of whether it's Christianity or if you're Buddhist or whatever it is, there's this belief system that you are a part of, that, you know, in death, for the most part, there is going to be something else, you know, in your heart, that there's going to be something else after this, right? You just said that this is just temporary. And I think that there's comfort in that. And if that's how you process it, what the heck is wrong with that? That's how we get through this life.
Right. It is. But you got to remember, if people aren't understanding that, they don't know what they have to risk. You know what I'm saying? So if you practice Christianity, you know, back in, you know, when Jesus, if you practice, you were murdered for it. So you had everything to risk, yet to have strong faith. But yet today, you know, people go to church on Sunday and they think they're good. No, you're not good. That's part-time shit. You can't do that, right? So it's gotta be, you gotta buy all in, and you gotta talk about being all in. And man, I just go back and think about the stuff that I missed out on, or, you know, where I failed in life, and you know, whether it was a husband, or whether it was as a father, or whether it was a supervisor. You know what I'm saying? If I had more of the characteristics that we talk about in faith, it would just makes you a better person. But you got to live by that Monday through Sunday, and there's no time off. You know, there's no time off to take a break. I mean, just being humble, time by itself, right? So you've got to live by those words every day. And that truly means this isn't a world about, it's not a world about me, you know, and that's today's culture. Everything's about me. No, it's not about you. It's about taking care of somebody else. You can put everything in place that, oh man, we're really pro good health and pro mental health, until it comes down to it. Are you? Or is it just a freaking checklist? How much do you really care if you're freaking demanding your people that you're ordered in, they're ordered in, they're ordered in, they're ordered in? Where's your care about them? Their bodies can't take that, right? So again, it's supposed to be about taking care of others. And whether it's, you know, you talking to me or having an interview, or whether it's me talking to my neighbor that I've met, you know, whatever, a year ago, if he needs help, you go help. You step out of the way, which again, going back to our professions, we sign up for these professions, fire and police world, right? In that interview, when you're asked, why do you want to be a police officer? Why do you want to be a fireman? And your first words always is, I want to help others.
Yeah.
But yet you get hired, and then you're like, dude, really? I got to go take that bullshit call? Or why are they calling us for this? Well, what happened to taking care of others? And you fall off that path of why you're truly there. Oh, it breaks my heart, you know, just thinking how we could do things so much differently and put people in just a better spot, you know, in their head and their hearts. That's what we need to do.
Well, and I think you pointed out there, put them in a better spot between their head and their hearts. It's your job is so tragically, emotionally wearing that you decide to remove your emotions, and higher ups then can't necessarily connect the two on when it comes to a personal basis.
Well, again, I'll go back and say the higher ups have a disconnect because they choose to be disconnected. Right. I know some really good leaders out there, and, you know, being fortunate to work with Calibre Press, being fortunate to work with them. I know some really good leaders that I work with that have not forgotten where they came from, and they put it on their schedule to spend time with their people so they can see them and read them and understand them and see if they're hurting or they're upset or they're stressing about something. And then he will take it face to face. What's going on with you, bro? And that whole, I'm fine. No, no, you're not, because you know why you're not fine? Because you just gained 30 pounds in the last 6 months. You're not fine. Let's find out why.
Yeah.
And they did for it. So there's people are out there and they're owning it, but the majority of this country, you can see from the numbers, they're not owning it.
That's true. So since you've discovered this, since the shooting really, and everything after that built up, what are some of the things that you've done to, one, help yourself? I know you go and train for Calibre Press, so you're giving back. And I know you have this discussion in your trainings to an extent.
Oh yeah, every class I'll put a picture of Ken on the slide. Every class I teach, I will put in memory of my brother Ken, and I'll have a picture of him, and you're in one of the pictures, and just, you know, just being a Father's Day thing. And every class I'll have a minute to talk about, and sometimes it fits in, and sometimes it's just a post lunch. Let's throw these numbers up and have a talk. And sometimes it triggers some discussion, but most time people are just like, just kind of write it off. So go back to your question. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. With you doing that, you're bringing it to the front with whatever
No.
you're doing. And what are you advise? You know, you talk about it with them. So what are you, and obviously it is an emotional trigger when you do this each time. What is there one thing that you give them as they're going through the training, whether they're new hires or been around a while?
Yeah, the first, you know, a couple of things have come up, and you know, you said that I bring to them, and I will tell you that being blessed to work with Calibre Press, I truly think going to talk to these guys in these classes, they bring a lot to me. You know what I'm saying? So as much as I'm, you know, very lucky and blessed to be able to go out and teach, what I get from that is more than I can ever offer anybody. I mean, I'm not literally working the street no more, but I still feel part of a team in some ways. And to share with them a story of Kenny's story, or to share with them my own testimony in a couple classes, it is hard. And I will tell you right now that, you know, we have one class called Street Survival, and in that class, there's a part of that class built in to talk about my testimony. And when I started teaching this class in 2017, my testimony was kind of short, abrupt, to the point, and I was scared, embarrassed, anxiety high, and even unknown to what the truth was. And as I've matured and as I've learned more, I've brought more and more to this testimony. And don't get me wrong, there's still points of it where, well, I'm going to get teary eyed, and there's points of it where I've got to pause for a second and refocus. What the point is here, that I can go through this testimony and then bring the outcome to it. You know, what you're asking for, how do I tell them, where am I at today, and how have I gotten there today? And it's through a whole component of things. You know what I'm saying? It's not just a checklist. It's not just, hey, I went to a counselor. I mean, I think I've been to 9 counselors, 9. And I'll have my opinion of them, and I'll share with you in here. The majority of the ones that I went to failed medical school, and this was their fallback. It's heartbreaking. I mean, you don't tell a police officer, oh man, you know what? If it's that bad, why don't you just quit and get another job? What? That's what you got to tell me? That's your best answer? So
They said that?
yeah.
Holy crap.
One told me that, and one told me I was overweight and fat. One told me that I needed to lose some weight. Maybe I'd have more confidence in myself. They actually called me fat. They said I was obese. I'm sorry. They said I was morbidly obese, was what the word was. But
wow.
But that's but that's EPA. And not
Thank
EPA.
you.
That's not EPA.
That's not EPA.
Employee assistance.
Yeah.
What is it?
Employee assistance. Yeah.
So EAP.
EAP.
So that's the EAP. Well, you know, I was just in a class yesterday or day before about mental well-being, and we're talking about EAPs. Well, that goes back to, I tell these guys in class, who's your EAP? Have you actually gone to talk to them? Have you reached out? And if it was horrible, did you tell somebody about it to get it fixed? Because there's things in line to be there for you, but if you haven't tested it, then you can't tell somebody who's currently in in crisis mode that they're going to go get their answer to the EAP.
I think that's why it's important. I'm learning now for peer support. No matter how big or small the department is, just have one, or if it's a small department, have a couple people that are those people that are in charge of going and testing it out. Like literally make a phone call and interview these therapists and then put them on a list. This is one you can call.
Correct. And I will tell you through my experiences, and again, this is only through my experiences, you have to find somebody that understands these professions.
Yeah.
I mean, fire and police and fire, and I'm going to include dispatch.
Yes.
These three careers, there's no other employment out there anywhere like this, and what we do and what we're expected to do, and how, like right now, the horrible Texas shooting, right? And now, it all started off X, Y, and Z, and now cops are being thrown under the rug because they didn't do the training. Well, they didn't do the training. Well, your expectations of what we are, you're not even accurate. We're not some.
Yeah.
The majority of cops have 500. We have less than a third of a cosmetologist supervisor on the floor. We get less training than that, and yet we expect to save lives. So people's expectations don't understand. So cops come into this world, and these new recruits get hired, right? And right now, this generational stuff that the generations we're hiring right now are higher suicide rates than any other group out there. And now they're becoming police and firemen who have a stressful job, and we still haven't figured it out. If we don't figure it out, these numbers are only going to go through the roof, because nobody wants to openly say, how do we get back on track? What do we need to do, step 1, 2, and 3, to make sure we don't lose them? And I'll be first here to tell you right now. I mean, what got me back on track was church, period. Was literally a friend that got me back into church. And that has changed my life 1000%.
And was that before Ken died? Or was that
No,
after?
After.
I was just curious.
Because Ken helped. I say Ken helped. Ken was part of the spiraling thing. You know what I'm saying? Just not.
But right there where you said Ken helped, he did, because he helped you find your voice to get what you needed, even though he couldn't. So got to bring that positive out of there.
No, you're right. And yes, you do, on sitting here on a podcast. Yes. But again, for me sitting on this side, you still hear things, and I still got to work through that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because Robyn, you said it, we don't deal with death. And even though I understand it better now, I'm still not square with it. I'm still not like, this happened for a reason. Well, why did it happen? Well, why did all these kids get killed in Texas? What's the reason behind that? Right. So you still deal with it. And yet those cops and this fire and this first responder can deal with that for the rest of their lives, and their families for the rest of their lives, they're going to deal with it. So what do we get out of that? Right. What lessons are there to be learned?
Right.
So that's a whole nother topic.
That really is a whole other topic. That's a whole 2-hour podcast, I think.
2 hours. Man,
yeah. At minimal. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so difficult to sit there and catch exactly one thing, which is why it's a cumulative buildup. And even in death, I mean, to realize what we've learned since Ken died and understood. Now, when I always tell people I understand 25 years of my life, no, I don't understand 25 years of my life. It makes more sense to me. And I'm trying to heal from that and help the kids heal and help everybody around. But it's true. I mean, it's a work in progress all the time, and it's okay to have those bad days.
No, I'm sorry, Robyn, go ahead.
No, I was just going to bring it back around to what you were saying in the beginning about talking about forgiveness and stuff. I think that each thing that you learn, it helps, but then it also potentially opens the door to another reason to feel guilty about something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I mean, Christy said, you think you figure something out, and it's hard. Well, whoever gave us a book that said life was easy.
Right.
I mean, there's going to be struggles, and there's going to be hurts, and there's going to be broken hearts, and there's going to be tears, and there's going to be anger. And you just got to learn how to deal with all of that in a way that you come through on the end, and in the long run, knowing what's the outcome. Me standing right here is only freaking temporary.
Yeah.
Me being on this podcast is just a small part in the big picture. And that's how you really have to truly look at everything. These cops that go to the damaged mailbox call. Dude, that's a small part, and a small part of your day, and a small part of your real long life. But in that small part, you might go take a take a report for a broken mailbox from some lady that freaking hates the police. And now you got an ample opportunity to do nothing but talk good about the police and tell them what we do and why we do it and explain whatever it explains. And you just made a brand new connection. But that means you have to do what? You have to have face-to-face conversation with somebody, right? How hard is that these days, right? To literally have a heart-to-heart, face-to-face to somebody that you don't know and just take it. You know, you want to talk bad about the police?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk bad about the police and tell me why, and let's go from there. I had I'll just share with you, I had a class in Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, a couple weeks back, and I was meeting a friend from Chicago and got to the bar, and I went to sit outside, and I go to sit down at the bar stool, and the guy next to me is like, I'm just kind of, you know how you, not that I'm supposed to judge, but I'm judging, right? I'm kind of looking at this guy's tattoos and his hair and his dress and, you know, a blue collar worker. And I'm like, man, this guy's got some history. And I sit down to order a Jack and Coke, and he looks at me, he's like, hey, get him a double. I'm like, I don't even know you, dude. And he's like, you need a double. I'm like, I need a double. It's like, you need a double. It's like, no, I'm closing out. I'm like, okay, well, thank you for the double. So next thing you know, he starts telling me a story. So I sat there and listened. And he asked me, well, what are you doing here? I'm like, well, I'm up here. I'm an instructor. And instructing what? And I kind of got law enforcement. And he kind of rolled his eyes like, oh my God, I hate the cops. Right? I hate the cops. He said, I hate the cops, quote unquote. And I said, well, why? And he told me his personal story. And I'm like, well, where are you at today? And going from there, then my buddy showed up. Dude, this guy stayed with us and we talked to him for 4 hours.
Wow.
He was checking out about life, about faith, about God, about relationships, about his ex-wife, about my ex-wife, about just, we talked for 4 hours.
That's
It was
huge.
like,
Amazing.
that's huge.
Yeah.
Huge. I mean, that guy said, I'm not going to live past 51. I go, how old are you? He goes, 49. I'm like, you're not going to live past, you know, it was just great conversation where it ended with a freaking handshake and a hug from a guy that didn't like the police.
Right.
So it's like, that's pretty cool.
That says a lot because you gave him the time.
And he was willing to take the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So somebody put us all there at that time on that day to work through something, whatever it might be.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And that's what our job is in this police and fire world, right? Christy, you had said something earlier. No, I'm sorry. Robyn, you had mentioned peer support programs and how they're in place. I want to just throw this out there because I've kind of learned this as I'm going through classes. I know the peer support program is a big checklist right now. Okay. That we need to have this in place. And we're doing something. I would only offer a suggestion though, if we have a peer support program, that we're not peer support programs for our own department. Meaning, you know, if I'm community A and I've got 5 guys in my peer support program, they need to be peer support program for community C, and C needs to be support for D, and D needs to go back to B. Because even though we're still in the same world and we still have a job to do, if somebody's in crisis and needs help, I still hear stories of people that they don't want to put the person they work with in a position where they may lose their job. They may lose their wife. They may lose their relationships. And because they're in fear of that, they don't say anything because they work with them.
Yeah. Until we can end that. I mean, that was one of my husband's name was Eric. That was one of Eric's number one fears. What he said to me all the time, why he wouldn't go get therapy. He wouldn't say anything to anybody because he was afraid of losing his job, which I always say, I come to find out after he died that he was doing so much damage on the job on his own doing that if he had continued the behavior that he had before he died, he would have lost his job anyway, probably, or been put on administrative leave or something. But see, yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying, those are the signs that somebody should be picking up on that.
Right. Yeah. And I think that, you know, I have to hand it to his department. In the beginning, you know, it was very much I don't know how this happened, but then after time went on, they slowly came out of the woodwork and everyone saw the signs. I can't point fingers as his wife because I saw the signs too. He was blatantly telling me that he had PTSD and I didn't know what to do with it because I believed him. I believed him that he was going to lose his job. But in hindsight, I would have been perfectly fine with his losing his job as long as he was still alive, if I had to take one over the other. But so I'm working with them now. They're creating a really, really good peer support team at his department, and they're including me in the process, which I'm grateful for. It's just helping me. But I think that is one of the goals, to make it where it's not just for that department, that you can reach out. Other members of other departments can reach out as well. I had my father, who lives up in Mount Shasta and further North California, and he has a friend that's a volunteer firefighter, and found out that he's been hitting the bottle a little bit too hard. Sorry about my dog. And he says, do you have any resources? And my immediate thought was, I would love to connect him with Alameda County Fire's peer support, but I don't know if that's a thing yet. So I gave him numbers to retreat centers and 24-hour hotlines. But I agree with you. I think that eventually, if we can make this into something where it doesn't matter what department you're with, if there's somebody that you can reach out to, just reach out to them.
And the fact that as a chief, I need to say, everything comes down to money. Everything comes down to time.
It does. Yeah.
And the effort. And that's something that I think our administration teams just need to plan a little bit better, especially in these times, which is not going to work because defund the police theory and all that little bullshit right now. So guys are going to be struggling right now on their own. I mean, there's going to be a lot of struggling right now because of that. And as we do these classes, I kind of put in everybody's heads, just don't forget your friends, man, and have a plan. Like, before something happens, have a plan. If you're sitting side by side with somebody, window to window in a car at 2:00 in the morning, you're bullshitting, and the guy's telling you, man, God, I'd be better off dead. I mean, a quote like that, and it goes into this or that or that. Yeah. You need to have a plan. Like, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to go to your supervisor, or are you going to go to your boss? You got to have a plan right now. And if you don't have a plan, you're part of the problem right now.
Yeah. And so, Eric did say those things.
Yeah.
A couple of people. And I mean, it was either taken as a joke or, oh, you really don't mean that.
Yeah. See, and again, going back to my home agency, and obviously they see this, but there were a multitude of signs that I was kind of spinning, because I think the biggest thing was I was very antagonistic. I was always trying to stir the pot. Mm-hmm. And I stirred the pot, I think, because my shift appreciated it, but yet I didn't want to stir the pot at home, because that was already kind of in a little bit of a turmoil, right? So I picked the easy target, which I thought was my chief. And I stirred the pot with him, which obviously you can't pick battles you can't win. But if somebody were aware of what my behavior and what my conduct and what my work ethics were prior to a lot of this, and compared it to where I was at these days, somebody should have saw something. I'm not blaming anybody on this. I'm just saying that the signs are always there, but as all of us, we just need to do a better job at calling people out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you look at signs and symptoms of, some of the suicide stuff, and God, that could be everybody, every cop, every firefighter that works has some of those signs and symptoms, but how do they manage it? Whether it's death of a family member, whether it's, sucking on the bottle a little bit too much, whether it's, sleep cycles suck, whether it's anger issues, whether it's, falling back on narcotics or self-medicating themselves, or hundreds of them, right? But how do you manage it? How do you get from day 1 to day 2 to day 3 to day 4? And how do you guide them there? And it's work, man. This is so much work, but you got to do it. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
exactly. And have that conversation. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I have a question on not talking really, in the department and what we can do to change. So we'll be right back. We are excited to be able to start our day with Badge Brew Coffee. Hey, Robyn, did you know that Badge Brew has a new charitable badge, Calibre Roast?
Hey, Christy, I thought I heard that was going to happen.
Yeah, it's called First Response Roast, with a spicy, smooth, medium roast with flavor notes of spice cake and citrus undertone.
Oh, that sounds amazing. And if that doesn't tempt our audience, a portion of the proceeds go to First Help. Oh, and don't forget, they're first responder family owned. Whether you're on day shift, night shift, or the shift of raising your family, Badge Brew has your coffee ready and waiting.
So let me ask you, what's your badge of honor? Find out by going to badgebrewcoffee.com and order yours. If you want the first response roast, click on Charitable Badge Collab. I know I am. All right, welcome back. We are here with Jim Schlicher. He is an instructor and a retired police officer and firefighter. There, did I say it right that time for you? Firefighter EMT, that better. He likes to sit on the couch. Yeah,
Now
he likes to sit on the couch at work.
No, that's a fireman thing. That's a fireman
Yeah,
thing.
no.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
I'm sorry.
Load of shit is what it is, Christy.
Let's pause. It's not a couch. It's a leather recliner. Call it what it is.
Exactly. Get it right. If you're
And
gonna
you have to have your,
So
Afghan to cover up. Afghan, little pillow, your little snuggle blanket.
That is so true. When I went and did some teaching downstate in a fire department, they had, and I just laughed every time I looked at it because they had to push them out of the way for the class. Like 5.
Yeah, one for each
The
person.
wide recliners, because once they're not regular size ones aren't enough with a big screen TV in this little room that is like the size of my master bedroom. I'm like, hey, if it works for you,
Yeah, they live there.
Just waiting for the tones to go off, right? Just wait for the tones to go off. Then we go
put
to
your
work.
shoes back on and No.
But sometimes you can get to the truck and just step right in the boot. Then you put your shoes back on.
Right.
True.
Yeah,
True.
absolutely.
So
They're
true.
waiting outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good times, man. Good times and good people. That's all I can say.
Well, and that's what I wanted to talk about as we came back is the difference between.
You mean which one is better?
No.
Sorry.
We'll never truly know.
I'll give you an answer to that.
Yeah.
I've done them both. Remember, I've done them both.
That is true. Would you have gone into the full 30-year career as a firefighter as opposed to a police officer?
Was that the question?
No, it is now.
Oh, no.
No.
So my father was a firefighter for 30 years. Western Suburbs, Chicago. And he went through all the bullshit politics of firefighter up to commissioner and resigned and jumped to the school board and jumped all the political parties and stuff. So he definitely had his experiences and knew the right from wrong. So when I told him I wanted to be a fireman, he's like, dude, don't be a fireman. There's too much politics in firefighting. Be a law enforcement officer. Little find out that there's politics there too, right?
It's no different.
What?
No, no.
It's literally in the title, law.
It is. Right.
Duh.
So dad's guidance, whatever. I could never, I would never replace or do we talked about my career. So 26 years at my home agency, then I started teaching right away, and then I went back part-time for another agency to kind of wind up my 30 years. And I would never replace what I learned, even though I went some trying times. I would never replace law enforcement because I know in so many cases and so many calls, I can just reconnect to somebody that I know I changed somebody's life. I know that I said the right thing, did the right thing, and that person's not dead, or they're no longer on narcotics, or they're no longer prostituting themselves to make money. So I know specific stories where I've changed someone's life. So that by itself is enough for me. Although the brotherhood and sisterhood that came along with it is the other bonus. So law enforcement's taught me a lot. So when I stepped down from the SWAT team, I was missing something in my life, and it was almost my whole career on the SWAT team. So when I stepped down as a result of an injury, it kind of changed a lot of things in my head, and I was missing something. Well, it happened to be out at a bar one night with some firemen, and they said, come be a fireman. So I don't know where that was going to get me,
And he lost the bet. So there he was.
So, yeah. So I ended up going to the academy and jumping on EMT stuff. And I signed up with this, even though it's a house that's staffed 24 hours, we'll still call it part-time firefighting because I pick so many shifts a month. Great guys, great calls, intense, adrenaline dumping. You don't know what you're going to get. How do we rephrase that? Because I think that's the big difference is, in the firefighter world, you have that adrenaline and you have the sirens going and you have there to be the guys in blue that save lives. But most times going on most calls, you know what you're going to. You have a plan, And there's a way to exercise that plan, and policies and procedures drive what you're going to do from point A to point B, from the time you're on scene to the time we're cleaning up and going to rehab. We got a plan. Law enforcement, they don't get that lucky.
Yeah.
You get some random, who knows what, that turns into a traffic crash. And as you're going up to extricate somebody, there's somebody shooting at you as you're trying to save their lives. So there's the big difference that I see right there between the two, that cops, we need to be vigilant. Even though you find guys, yeah, it's 12-hour shift. I might have only worked 2 hours today, but something bad. And, in our training classes, you got to remember that it's, anyone, anytime, anywhere, for any reason, there can be a predator trying to kill you. And you've got to be vigilant to that every single day. You go in and check your uniform on, you've got to be prepared for that. Fire world, I'm not going to tell you that somebody can't take your life, because we've seen firefighters get shot on calls. So their vigilance is just as important, but that call volume is different. And what you're going to is different. That kind of drives the feeling. So they're both unbelievable careers. And, I've worked under some really good chiefs, and I've worked on some chiefs that I could probably have an opinion or two about, but that's every cop and every firefighter. We've got good leaders and we've got bad leaders. We've got people that are good hearts, but just not good leaders. So it's a matter of seeking that out and doing what you can with what you have, knowing it's a team you have. Everybody that's in this, everybody that watches this podcast, everybody's a leader. If you don't think they're doing enough to promote mental health, then fix it.
Yeah.
Then go do something and step up to the plate and quit looking at numbers. Fix it. There's tons to do. Fix it. And, that's one message I'll leave, these guys in classes. If it's broken, fix it. Be a leader yourself. You don't have to wait for a chief to tell you. Do it. Just go do it.
I like that message.
Yeah.
It turns out I like you, Jim.
It's because I do both ways, right? Both ways.
He's that kind of guy.
I thought you were going to be a problem with that serial answer, but
Not at all.
yeah, no.
I love the fact that
It's
you two
working
ladies
out.
are doing as much as you're doing right now.
Thank
because
you.
it's never going to be enough. It's never
It's
going
not,
to be enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
This is just one small part of a system of things that can be done. This is just one small part of it.
but again, it reaches one person, then it's a check mark.
Yes.
One person,
Absolutely.
and one less number on that freaking boards. I just,
Yes.
it's like that class in Pennsylvania. I got my little, block that I'll do, and I got a screenshot of Blue H.E.L.P's page of the numbers that have passed this year. And the last time I taught a class, I kind of early morning, I had a little talk about mental illness on lesson. That's probably around 43, 44. And at lunchtime, before I did my part, I pulled up, it was like 51. I'm like, how did we jump 8 in a matter of like 14 days? I'm like,
Yeah.
we were almost running one a day for the days in the year for a while. I'm like,
Yeah.
it breaks my heart. It truly breaks my heart.
And those are only the
it's
ones
gonna get
being
worse.
reported.
No, I know.
That's what's sad.
It's going to get worse.
It is. And obviously we know that you, as a first responder, you struggle and it trickles down into your family. Not all families, of course, will have a lot of issues, but that it fractures you sometimes from your family, and your kids struggle or see it and don't understand. Rebuilding that relationship is really hard, because you have to be humbled and open yourself up to ridicule from them, to not being what you think you're this, you want them to have everything and you think you're doing it right. In reality, kind of slaps you in the face that, wow, I really screwed that up. How is that? How can you help families? That I always say the one thing that I did wrong was I put the kids on a need to know basis. You need to know mom and dad love you, and you need to know we're there for you. And that taught them not to talk. So unteaching that has been my process. But what have you done or doing?
So to say I've been there and done that again, and this is the hard part to have a conversation about, is, as you can just see, I'm doing this right now, right? So anxiety high. So I will share that, during my struggles, my wife and I were having our problems, and I refused to talk at home about certain things I needed to talk about, and I didn't know how to talk about them. And during that time, I found a woman who would listen and would talk and was humble and was kind and trustworthy. And I'm not saying that my wife wasn't any of those, because she was, but I didn't trust myself to say what I needed to say. So as a result of that, we can see where this is going. I had an affair, which is obviously one big sign for somebody having some problems is having an affair. I will tell you today that the affair that I had, the woman that I met, I am married on March 17th of this year. And because we were in this journey together, I can't be in a better place than I am right now. But that hurt a lot of people. And the struggle that I battled for a long time is how do I mend that relationship with my 3 boys where I broke their hearts? So my oldest, being more mature and kind of seeing some of life's struggles in his mid-20s, is a lot different than my high school senior, whose life was devastated because dad packed up and moved out. So I think in the very beginning, I struggled in the fact that I needed to do it my way. I needed to, be that dad. I needed to say my word. I needed to explain my side of the story because I knew his mom was her side of the story. And we know with every story, there's going to be 3 sides.
Right.
So we just got to take a little bit of all 3 and put them together. And I'm never going to say, his mother's wrong because she's right. Things happened and it happened for whatever reason it happened. I will be honest with you and tell you that my way around this was honestly prayer. I can't tell you how much I prayed, and it was not. I'm going to get teary-eyed. It was not so much of praying that God would see this out right for us, but I was always praying on doing the right thing and saying the right thing or texting the right thing at the right time to not trigger more resentment, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
So I think the answer I got through that, through prayer and through listening, was just give it time. Just give it time. So I kind of went away from everything that I wanted to do and continue to reach out, and I just let it sit. And next thing I know, my youngest that hadn't talked to me really in about 2 years, maybe a couple texts here or there, came down the weekend we got married, and kind of blew him out of the water a little bit that, oh, by the way, we got married. But he was very open to that and very welcoming to Kristen and very welcoming to me. And it was good. It was a good start to still a journey, right? But my oldest son was very wise when he told me, he goes, Dad, because I told you it was time. It was, you're pushing and he's pulling and you're pulling and he's pushing. Once you took the tension away and just let things sit, he's got nothing else to pull against. He's got nothing else to push against. So that's why it fixed itself. So here's my oldest kid being the wisest, right? Giving me suggestions, me listening to prayer, and it all came true. So I'm super excited to have everybody down here this weekend. And I know it's just the start of a process, but it's a good process. And it's something that, again, life's not supposed to be freaking easy. There was nothing easy about any of this. So again, I got to push through. So going back to that whole, things get broken and relationships get broken. How do you build them back up? Well, first you got to start with the why, right? Like, why did it get broken? And what did you do? What did I physically do to fix it? And I will tell you, my boys really didn't go to church. They grew up part-time Christians, I guess you'd call it, would go on Easter and Christmas and do our holiday thing. But and I should take that back, because they still know the Spirit of the Holy Spirit. They still know kindness and goodness and every part of those words. They know those words and they practice those words, but they just freaking don't read the Bible, right? They don't read it. They don't study it. They don't look at it. So they're going to see, or they're seeing a different part of Dad, because I'm a different person today than I was 5 years ago. I'm a different person today than I was 10 years ago. I think I'm still a good-hearted person, but I think there's more in me to be able to give more. And I just need to find the right time and the right ways to give that more to them or to whoever's willing to take it. So I guess I'd sit here and tell people that feel like that their families are falling apart. It can be fixed. Mm-hmm. It can be fixed, but you've got to identify what the problem is, and you've got to be willing to change the way you've done things in the past and fix it and correct it and ask for forgiveness and work for forgiveness. You can't just ask for forgiveness and keep doing the same shit. I can't ask to be forgiven for an affair and then go have an affair with somebody else. I can't ask to be forgiven for having a gambling or a drinking problem, but continue to drink. I can't ask for forgiveness from God or from my spouse. I got to make the changes. If you commit to changes, you're going to see the changes, right? So I think that's a big part of it. That answered your question. I know I kind of went a little bit direction, but
no, it did. And I think it's important that people hear that, because when you're in that moment of, that fracture of your family, you don't believe that can happen, that this is the way it's always going to be. It takes work, but you can do it.
Yes.
And
yes,
I know that you weren't sure that was ever going to happen. You were getting kind of, I don't want to say complacent, it's not the right word, but accepting of this may never happen. And I just can't, you can't let it go, but you can't.
I mean, I know my wife, Kristen was always just time, patience, and everybody else who's gone through this before, right? Who've gone through a divorce, dude, everybody's got a different story.
Exactly.
Everybody has different variables to that story. Oh, he just needs time. Well, you don't know what he does because you don't know what I did. And everybody's got a different story, and everybody's story is going to be different. But in the end,
fixing looks different for everybody, every family too. Sometimes fixing doesn't mean that you stay together and your marriage is somehow miraculously fixed. It may mean that you need to divorce or separate or whatever that looks like. And
perfect example.
Yeah.
You can pray and pray and pray all day, but a woman who's in an abusive relationship, that shit ain't going to get fixed.
Right.
The only way out of that is to leave and to get a support system and leave. You don't go back to go do it again. That's not one you keep giving chances to. So you're right. Every variable is different, but we've got to come clear with that. You know what I'm saying? We've got to, man.
Well, and there's both sides, right? There's your ex-wife's side too. You were there for her for a season in her life, that there was a reason that you were there, and vice versa. And it is like that. I've been talking with various people and kind of learning about this too, that, you don't have to have somebody, my parents were married for over 60 years. They're still like, is that really a thing anymore? And is it really necessary anymore? I don't know. We evolve as people, and sometimes that just doesn't make sense anymore. I'm getting off topic too, but it just goes back to
you're not getting off
different for everybody.
It does look different for everybody, but every story. But again, I don't mean to keep doing this, but this says there's an answer to that. This says you should be married all the time. This says you don't lose love, you don't lose hope, you don't lose respect. That says to be patient, right? To be kind, to not speak before you listen to all the facts. Don't be angry at people. You know what I'm saying? So if we follow what that says in there, we're not going to have that problem. But that starts in every aspect of life. Every aspect of life has to come through that. And it doesn't matter if it's a personal relationship between me and a spouse, or between me and my boss, or between me and my shift or my subordinates. Those words carry success all the way through if you put the time and the work into it. Mm-hmm. I know I might be in some big bubbly cloud here, but if I go back and think about your parents living through 60 years, that was work. And I would tell you, if my mom was alive today, my parents would have been married that same time.
Yeah.
They would have worked on it. My grandparents stayed married for 60 years. They worked on it. So it's possible, but it's work. But because this culture right now, the American culture, we make it so easy for people.
Yeah.
It's all about me. You know what I'm saying? I can have a package here tomorrow on this, or I can have this delivered here. I can, swipe on some app and I'm a freaking stud, and I'm getting a date tomorrow night. And if I don't like that date, I can swipe right on another one the next day. You know what I'm saying? Culture's driving this. We got to get away from culture and go back to how we were really raised by our parents. Yeah.
And I mean, going back to what you said in the beginning about the young cadets and probies, like growing up in this world of instant gratification and social media, it's going to be interesting to see this new generation of first responders. Is it going to be better? Is it going to be worse? Because Christy and I talk a lot about, we think it's going to be better because they're more attuned to mental wellness and there's all these apps out there. But You brought up a good point. Like the suicide rates among young people is so high that the White House is putting together a task force. So I don't know, actually.
No, you know, and this new generation, my boss has told me that, we've had evals come in through classes that some of our instructors swear too much, or we might be showing this of something offensive. Okay, hold on a second. Offensive? We're in a police or fire class right now. How can we become offensive, right?
And
you laugh, but
swearing, you
it's-
got my
it's swearing.
attention.
Yeah, it's swearing. So I go back
Swearing
and
is a sign of intelligence.
Right.
yeah, I go back to one of the classes where I'll keep names out of it, but I'll go back to one of the classes where there was an officer who was murdered on the side of the road, and we're talking about graphic details, right? And he was murdered on the side of the road by an AK-47, and his dad was the chief of that agency.
Wow.
And his dad showed up to this scene and saw his son laying there in the street.
My God.
And I got a picture, right, of his graphic view of him on the street. And we can talk about that graphic view, right? And what that does to somebody's head. Maybe I can't unsee it, but that's not the graphic part. The graphic part of this story is the fact that dad, that chief was in his car with his wife and this boy's mother, who had just recovered from breast cancer. And they were leaving town to go on a trip to celebrate life. And now he's got to go back and tell mom that her son is 100 yards up, on his back with his brain matter blown all over the street.
Mm-hmm.
And the chief goes to explain, and he doesn't explain, he does a great job describing mom's scream
Yeah.
inside that sky. That's graphic.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that people don't forget. I can look at pictures, but it's the emotional part that we're all human beings, and society thinks we're just robots. We're not.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to deal with that stress differently, and it's not going to just disappear because I had a week of administrative leave and no follow-up.
Right.
Not going to just a year later. That shit doesn't go away. You've got to continue to go back and check on your people. We can sit here and talk all day that, hey, our brothers and sisters are, am I locked on my screen right now?
You are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phasing up in the screen. So we can always talk about, people and talking to others, but it's identifying when we're talking to somebody, if it needs to be more than me and you talking brother to brother, brother to sister. Do I need to have a third person present? And does that third person need to be a professional to know how to deal with it, or how to erase some memories that you might have and thinking about something else to push forward?
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm frozen. Still got Wi-Fi, still good.
It's okay. We can still hear you.
Okay.
So with that, I know we have to wrap up now.
Okay.
But I would like, and I'm pretty confident what you're about to say. You probably already said throughout, but every guest that we have on, we ask, what is something that you, Jim Schlicher, that you do every week to help you get through to Friday to make it better?
What do you think I'm going to say? Right. So I pray every day. I pray multiple times a day, and I've gotten really good at reading. I mean, I have read more books in the last 4 years than I've read in my entire life. I will tell you that I've read the Bible from cover to cover, and I didn't understand it the first time. I was like, what the hell goes on in this book? But now that I've gone back and I've broken things down and I'm learning it, I'm going to continue to do that, because it really is it's a really good book about life. And it's a really good book that kind of keeps me focused on what we are and what we should be doing. And more importantly, what we should be doing for others. Our discipleship to others is our priority in life. And you folks doing what you're doing right now is doing exactly that, reaching out to as many as you can and trying to make changes. So thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you. And thank you for coming on. I know, obviously we have a connection that makes it even more emotional, but to be able to talk openly and give insight for everybody, it's huge that you're able to do that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's been really nice talking with you and
Yeah,
meeting.
You too, Robyn and
Thank
Christy. Love you guys so much. Thank you so much. Okay.
Oh, love you too. Thank you. And then tell Kristen I said hi.
I will.
And congratulations.
Hey, thank you so much. We're looking forward to a little celebration this week.
Yes.
So,
Go get ready and enjoy.
awesome. Thank you guys. Love you so much. And thank you for all you do. Okay. We'll stay in touch.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right, bye.
Bye.